Joe, how y'all doing? Well, we're in the thick of spring ball now, guys, and we're getting our little snippets and nuggets of the first iteration of the Mike Elko Aggies. And it's been great. I'm enjoying every little morsel that we get, every little bite. We're the sickos. We're the ones watching this random live stream in the middle of the off season, hoping for more information about what we hope is the turnaround of the Texas A&M football program. And with this consumption of the minuscule details, we're running away with some quotes, some things that were said, specifically about the scheme of this team going forward. So, of course, I want to talk about it. I'm grateful that Elko is allowing coordinators and players to go to the podium several times in the first week of spring. It's great. We didn't get many glimpses into the program under Jimbo, so I appreciate this. But of course, the more information you let out, the more things are going to get taken and run with. And that was the case with Trey Zune, talking about how this scheme is not terribly different from what he was doing before. So before I talk about it, I want to talk about the scheme. I want to talk about the mentality of the scheme and the offense and the team as a whole going forward. I don't know if I'm a scheme expert, but I do know what I need to see from this team going forward to make me feel better about things overall. So let me go ahead and play Trey Zune's quote directly.
So, how much different is just the teaching process of what y'all have to learn in the offensive line as opposed to maybe previously?
Well, offensive line is really just repetition after repetition, learning the new technique and the new offensive scheme. So that's really all we're doing right now is just going back to the basics, going back to the fundamentals, getting everyone on the same page. So
Is the scheme that much more different?
not terribly, but it's definitely a lot to learn. So that's what we're going through right now. But everyone's picking it up pretty quickly. So I'm excited.
So first of all, shout out to Olin Buchanan. The guy asks great questions. He gets people talking. But I want to point out a couple things about this and then talk about the scheme overall and what we could expect going forward. First of all, this question was asked in the context of learning the new offensive line and working together with the new offensive line. The question was posed as such. I don't know if Trey Zune has a full grasp of exactly what Colin Klein envisions for this offense as a whole. I would say that players are on a need-to-know basis, and the coaches know the greater scheme, the greater goals of the offense. So I wouldn't call him a guru just yet. Maybe by mid-season, this guy doesn't have a great grasp of what we're doing. But right now, Trey Zune, who I really liked hearing from, sounds like a great leader, a very strong head on this guy. But he was talking about this offensive line. But let's say he was talking about scheme, how it's not terribly different. I know a lot of Aggies got PTSD when they heard this. I know you're thinking, oh, this offense was such a slog, anemic, 5 out of the 6 last years or so. And I get how we're sensitive about that. But schemes really don't differ that much, especially when you zoom in to a position group. From offense to offense across the country. Take the O-line. When they line up, they have a play call, and they have a specific job. They can make several different calls at the line of scrimmage. Maybe they're combo blocking. Maybe they're pass blocking. Maybe they're pulling. Maybe it's a counterplay. Maybe it's a zone, inside zone, outside zone. Maybe it's a power blocking scheme. The jobs don't change that much for individual players. So in Trey Zune's eyes, no matter where he is or whatever offense he would be in, his job wouldn't change that much. So I don't think we need to panic about that aspect. If you want to panic, you should panic if you see lack of discipline on this team. You should panic when you see the big picture of things not panning out together. But overall, schemes aren't going to change that much on this individual basis from team to team. So I didn't think it was that big of a deal until we looked at Twitter and we saw things starting to happen. So, I mean, I don't take it as a big deal. I think Klein definitely has his own offense. There are going to be similarities to other offenses across the country, including Jimbo Fisher's offense, including Bobby Petrino's offense last year. I don't know if you guys realized it. The offense last year was about 7 or so points per game better than the year before, so there was improvement last year. I would say situationally and consistency-wise, the offense was not good. It had its holes, it had its problems, obviously. It's not going to be entirely different. Let's play a different quote from Trey Zune. This is along the lines of discipline and things that you can expect from this team going forward. Emphasis is on this team going forward.
Trey, a lot of early talk about kind of the discipline that Coach Elko brings. How have you seen that kind of manifest itself in the program in the short time he's been here?
Yeah, I've loved that because everyone's doing what they need to do now, and there's no real room for kind of who's doing what. Like they're kind of not letting the stuff slide last year, but now we're really strict on that. So I like that because everyone's doing the right thing, and it's showing up in football too. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. So
that's a great quote right there. How you do anything is how you do everything. But he's talking about discipline and how things are different this year than last year in spring, in the short sample size that they have so far. They've been together since winter workouts and whatnot. But discipline is obviously a priority. And from other interviews that we've gotten from players, it sounds like people get punished for lack of discipline and losing. There have been two things that have been very apparent from the early glimpses of players and quotes that we've gotten from this team so far. They're going to emphasize discipline, and they're going to emphasize winning. Players have said that winners are getting praised and rewarded, while losers are actually getting punished. Lack of discipline gets punished. He almost slipped up right there and said that maybe things were kind of sliding last year. And based on what we've heard in hindsight about Jimbo's program, that just might have been the case. That some players were maybe, I don't know if I want to say above the rules, but maybe played by a different rule book. Sounds like that's not the case with this team. Torian York also took to the podium. Great to hear from Torian York. What a guy. What a leader for this team. We'll talk about his leadership in a second. But he also mentioned discipline. I don't know if he was asked about it or not. Let's just play the clip for you guys.
So what are the differences you see so far? I know it's already from this spring, say last spring. What are the differences?
The effort, the discipline, the use of science when it comes to practice. Like I know the first period that the media gets to see is the pursuit period, and I feel like that definitely just gets the ball rolling for practice. It sets the tone. He wants everybody running at least 85 to 100% of their full speed. So they use our full speed, our max speeds that we track throughout the first 3 months of spring to measure how fast are we running, and are we really running as hard as we can to the ball.
Effort and discipline. Effort and discipline, guys. So scheme, I think Elko's mentioned it already. And I think we know, or I think some of us realize that scheme is important, but in the context of winning, might be a little bit overrated. Very important factor, obviously. But the discipline, the effort, and the winning mindset for this team and shifting the mentality going forward to create a team of winning, I would argue that that's much more important. But I'll also say, I do think the scheme improves under Colin Klein and Mike Elko. Klein's going to use a lot of the similar tools that we saw last year. Every offense in the country does. Excuse me. What we want to see and what we need to see is players just performing at their best. The ability to consistently get playmakers involved in games. Don't let Ja'Day Walker's disappear. Don't let Noah Thomas's disappear. Don't let, he's not on the team anymore, Evan Stewart's disappear, which we saw last year. I think it's something that we've had a problem with since the A-Chain year. And as good as A-Chain was that year, I have said on this show, and I know some of you guys agree, that A-Chain might have been incorrectly utilized, not using him in screen game or outside very much, running him up the gut a lot, and maybe not utilizing players right. The play calling might not be entirely different, but I want to see players get featured more so than anything. And I think Colin Klein does that. I also need to see players improve consistently. I don't want to see regression anymore. I don't want to see what happened to this O-line over the last couple of years. I don't want to see those backward steps. And yes, better situational play calling. A winning attitude amongst the players, but also the coaching and in the context of play calling. Think about those going into halftime decisions that Jimbo made. Many of us call that a play not to lose attitude instead of a play to win attitude or mindset. We know this is already an early emphasis on the team. That winning attitude, that winning mindset. So, guys, I wanted to get on that soapbox to start the show tonight. It is a call-in show, guys. Welcome to the show. If you guys want to call in, the call-in link is pinned in the chat. Click that. You'll be prompted to enter a waiting room. Just activate your mic, not the video, and I'll pull you guys in one by one to talk football live on YouTube. And it doesn't have to be about what I just talked about. It can be about anything in the world of college football or sports. Wherever you want to take it, we'll go with it. And if you guys could like and subscribe, that would help me greatly. Let's say what's up to everybody who's in the show today. So we got Rangers King, Max, in the house. He has some stuff he wants to say today. Can't wait to hear from Max as usual. He usually brings us some great snippets and some great analysis on the big picture of college football. Looking forward to hearing from Max today. Go Native Overland. What a great clickbait title. It was a clickbait title. And I think clickbait is only as good as the substance behind it. And I hope I offered some good context to you guys about at least how I feel about this scheme and maybe some ideas for you to think about this team moving forward. I just feel like that quote was taken a little bit out of context, and I wanted to get in front of it and talk about that quote. And we did that. Rolly Mirabelle, what's up, Drew? Killer tune. Yes. Gotta start with Metallica. Most shows, I gotta throw some Metallica out there. I saw Metallica live for the first time this year, or last year, I guess now. Within the last year. It was awesome. Good to see you, Rolly, as usual. Ted in the house, always good to see you, man. I saw you were in the waiting room a second ago. Can't wait to hear from you, too. Maybe talk a little bit about the scheme going forward. Who is still hurting from Sunday's basketball game, says Rolly. I'm still hurting, man. I mean, the opportunity to play Duke this weekend would be amazing. The Aggies fought so hard. It was such a performance we can all be proud of, and you really wish they would have gotten rewarded by moving forward with it. Free throws, man. I'm practicing free throws. I'm not even playing. I'm practicing my free throws for the team. Yes, Rolly. Olin with the hard-hitting questions, as usual. Jeb's on the phone, but he's still in here. What a trooper, Jeb. What a trooper Jeb is. What a dang trooper. On the phone, but still in the Collins show. They tied it up. Last I checked, it was 6-3. Dang it. And John Peroni, good to see you, man. All right, before we get into the few callers we have tonight, the shows might shorten up over the offseason, keep them about an hour or less as we move into the doldrums of the offseason. But I hope to hit you guys with some substance before we get out of here on Thursdays. Get you guys some nice snippets and what I'm feeling about this team and maybe some things to think about. So a couple of observations and notes from spring thus far. If you didn't watch my Monday video where I talked about basketball, the second half of that video, I talked about those first couple practices of spring, the first couple of podium visits we got from the coach and the coordinators. But most recently, we had just showed you guys, we had Zune and York take to the podium. I honestly find it telling that these are the two guys that Elko first selected to take to the podium in this new era of football for Texas A&M. Obviously, hearing these guys speak, they're leaders on this team. And I actually have one more clip from Torian talking about leadership and how he absolutely owns it. Let me play this for you guys real quick because I thought it was awesome.
Torian, just with the coaching change and players choosing to leave or also going to the, hopefully to the NFL, just you staying here, do you see yourself kind of stepping into a certain leadership role, having the experience from last year?
100%. I feel like as my defense, I feel like the guys are very receptive to the way I lead and how I call the plays for sure. And I feel like whenever things are in the thick of the season, thick of spring ball right now, going to the team exercise, I feel like they all look to me for the cause, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
He said it's my defense. This guy is taking absolute ownership of the defense. And you needed to see it because you lost, obviously, those seniors to the NFL. You lost a fifth-year Damani, and you lose your on-the-field leader, lead-by-example guy in Edge Cooper. So, obviously, we already heard the rumblings last year from Jimbo about what a leader that Torian is. And I think his selection as the first defensive player to the podium in Mike Elko's program is very telling. Along with Trey Zune. Obviously, Trey Zune seems like he has a very level head about him, answered everything very strongly, and he gave good answers. These guys seem like they're definitely leaders on this team. No coincidence. Both guys were actually strong players on the field performance-wise last year for the team. Trey Zune, by far and away the best O-lineman last year. I think he only gave up 1 or 2 sacks on the year, only had 1 or 2 penalties on the year. I think Trey Zune is the only guaranteed starter going forward into the year next year. I think it's very likely that Chase Basantis starts as well, but not guaranteed. We have heard from both Trey Zune now and Mike Elko and Colin Klein that this O-line is going to be very much shuffled around in spring. We heard Trey Zune say that guys are taking snaps, guys are playing guard center tackle that haven't played before, shuffling guys around. We've had that confirmed several times now. So I said in my last video, it's been re-emphasized once again. I think that this offensive line might be a totally revamped unit going into next year. It could be the same 5, but they're looking at everything. You could see the same 5 in different positions. They're moving guys around. They're rewriting the book. I mean, why not? It's been a weakness for a couple of years now. Why not revamp how you look at everything? It's totally new. It's totally different. Along the lines of the offensive line, we also got a little glimpse. I don't know if you guys watched the little video about the Aggies where they have the little note about like who's the best dressed Aggie, and all the players come up to the camera on social media. It's an awesome piece they do. They do it weekly during the season. They did one for spring. But a little glimpse we saw is that Bryce Foster is actually at football practice. We got in that first podium visit from Elko, we heard that Bryce Foster was actually going to be doing track, not practicing in spring. And while that is the case, he wasn't suited out. He was in a t-shirt and shorts. He was at practice. He had a notebook. He had a pen. He was there observing and taking practice in, learning the new scheme, learning the new offense. That's a positive, right? I mean, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. But I do still think Bryce Foster gives this offensive line the best chance. I think he's the kind of guy where if Bryce Foster's playing at his best, you have to play him, even if he doesn't play in spring. Now, obviously, the big question is, will he be at his best not having played in spring and having a down year last year? That's the big question. Special teams is obviously a priority under Elko. He went on a rant for about a couple minutes about special teams, how they start practice with special teams runs. Obviously, adding a special teams coordinator to the team, it's a big deal. Glad to hear it's being emphasized. Obviously, was not a major emphasis last year. Something that needed to change, something we're hearing and knowing is an emphasis now. Let's check in on the chat, guys. A couple more people have jumped in there. Connor Chappell, hey there, Goober. Back at you, Goober. What's up, man? Matt Myers, what's up, Drew Tamu? Checking in from San Ignacio, Texas, down in South Texas. You doing some fishing, doing some hunting? How's Laredo? Awesome to see. Awesome to see. Cody in the house. Good to see you, Cody. Howdy. Back at you, man. J. Brandon Foster, good to see you, man. What's the latest on Connor's injury? What % do you think he's at today? Good question. My % will be arbitrary based on what I think. So I would say Connor's at about 80% or so. He's good enough to go to practice and be a full go in drills and maybe scrimmage scenarios, but with the strict caveat that he cannot improvise, he cannot leave the pocket. Elko said he's going to be a pocket passer throughout this spring. I think that's as good as we could have wished for, because I do think there's a world where that rehab, that foot injury lingers around, and he's not even out there on the field in spring. But no, he's been on schedule. He's gotten his work done. He continues to rehab, and he's out there in spring learning this playbook, just keeping and forming that chemistry with his guys. He's out there slinging the rock around, so you love to see that. He's practicing. We'll see him in the spring game. We'll see him out there. It's great to see, because I was worried that he would miss spring, and I think missing a first spring with the coaching staff could have been quite a detriment. But we see him out there. That foot is heavily taped, but his mechanics look sharp. He looks crisp. He looks like Connor Wigman throwing the football. Now, obviously, he does have that gunslinger about him. He can throw on the run. He can improvise. We're not going to get that in spring, but he's going to get the cerebral aspect, and that's probably the most important. Everything else is going to be instinct. The scrambling game is very instinctual. So I don't know. You don't really drill that. That's something that you don't hit quarterbacks in live go in practice. So you're not going to have him sharpening that tool, but it's not a tool that would necessarily be directly addressed in spring anyways. Now, I will say going into the year, I've said this before, I say this with about 75% confidence. I don't think we're going to see Connor Wigman at his absolute best running ability this football season. But I think that's okay. I think he'll still be definitely good enough to lead this team. But I think coming off that injury, maybe not where he's could be. Maybe he's like a 95% throughout the year, a 97%. Obviously, a couple years removed from that, Connor will be back up to speed. But I could be wrong. He could be 100%. But great question, Brandon. It's great to see you in here, man. Borakua Aggie, Nelson, good to see you, man. Laredo is great. Getting some Palenque grilled and heading back to San Antonio. That's the life, man. You're living the good life right now. All right, guys. Good to see you guys in here. Let's go ahead and get into some of the callers. So I think Theo was the first caller. I think he got disconnected, then reconnected. Let me answer this one question, then we'll get into Theo, make sure he's good and set up. If Connor goes down for any reason, who backs him up, Henderson or Reed? That's a good question. It's a very good question. And I think we have confirmed from Elko that Connor is quarterback 1 in spring. We haven't had a quarterback 1 in spring in quite a while. Great to hear it. A guy for this team to rally behind. A guy that we all know has the highest ceiling on this in this quarterback room, is the best player in this quarterback room based on what we've seen from each given guy. And that says a lot because this is a good quarterback room. We've seen something from each quarterback. Whether it's bowl game or Mississippi State game, closing the year out strong under Henderson, or some crazy high school highlights from the freshman quarterback, Miles O'Neill. But if Connor goes down, that's a battle right now. Reed and Henderson are in a battle right now, and Elko alluded to that fact. So if I'm leaning right now, I think Henderson, but we saw a damn good performance from Reed in that bowl game, so I wouldn't be shocked if Reed was able to emerge from this thing. But I'd lean Henderson right now. Way too early to tell, but do you see any Aggies securing All-American spots? Okay, so the answer, like, that I need it to be for this team to reach its ceiling on the year, to get to 10 wins this year, it's Connor Wigman. If Connor Wigman plays at an All-American level, and I think based on what we've seen on this offense, he probably has the best shot at it, but if he hits that, this is a borderline playoff team. That's what kind of player Wigman is, and that's how I feel about the improvement of this offensive line, potentially. If Connor Wigman has that kind of a year, he's an All-American and A&M's going places. Let's say Connor Wigman. Aggies took the lead. Okay, great. I had to stop watching. Great, guys. Thanks for the updates. Is Wigman better than Arch Manning? Absolutely. Bum. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know anything about Arch yet in college. We'll have to see. All right. Theo, you're on with Drew. How you doing, my friend? You with me, Theo? Looks like you're muted. Theo. All right, I'll give Theo a couple seconds, and if not, we're going to go to Max. We'll go back to Theo at the end of the show. All right, Theo got disconnected. We're going to go to Max. Max, how you doing, man? How you been?
Hey, I just finished making dinner, man. So I caught the Clemson game at the end. So
They were up big. What happened? What ended up happening?
they held on. They
Okay.
nearly lost the lead, lost the lead, but then they pushed back forward and they won by, like, I don't even remember the final score. I think it was either 5 or 7 points.
Oh, yeah,
Win.
yeah. So they didn't hold the lead, but they held on to the win. Okay,
Yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah, did you watch the A&M Houston game last weekend?
I caught the second half. Yeah.
What a game! That was a great game.
What a heartbreaker, honestly, and what a rage! Like, so infuriating that, like, you probably should have won that game, right?
I would say so. It was self-inflicted. I mean, free throws, that's the controllable aspect of the game that you failed at.
Yep.
I'll say this. Now that we're on the topic, I want to say this. I didn't say this in my reaction to the game. I do think Buzz Williams had a pretty good offensive game plan. He knew Houston is a very aggressive defensive team, very physical team, and he just attacked the rim, and he got the team to the line over and over again. But with that game plan, you have to hit free throws, and you didn't do it. So it is what it is. It was an admirable performance, but it just hurt so bad to have that high than that low. But anyway, man, what's on your mind today, Max?
Well, I was going to start with serious football stuff, but we got to talk about the shenanigans that happened, was it last week, where my mother's alma mater decided it was a great idea to bring their chuck wagon, or whatever you want to call it, onto the campus of Texas A&M University.
You talking about that Boomer Sooner sighting right by Kyle Field?
And I'm like, for why?
I know. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? What are these guys doing in front of the stadium on a Tuesday?
We got to talk. Maybe we need to have this. The sneaky storyline is that actually OU has been the cult school all along.
That's some cult-like behavior. That's some infiltration right there.
That's some Oregon Trail sneaky stabby type stuff going on right there. I mean, I'm sorry, that's weird.
I know.
Okay,
man. I know.
You can't claim you're first to this spot. Okay, it's already taken.
I know, man. It was crazy to see. It was crazy. It was hilarious. I had no idea what the hell going on. I'm guessing they're doing some sort of weird promo where they're the wagons at every SEC school or a commercial or something where they're taking over. I don't know. Let's watch them go 6
They
and 6
posted
next
about
year.
it. They posted they had this Sooner tour, but I'm like, but why do you have to bring the wagon? Like, just take your mascot. Don't be weird.
Man, they were weird about it, and it got awkward. But yeah,
And then in other news, let's see. The worst basketball coach I've ever seen got fired. Rob Lear got fired. I don't know about the worst, but one of the worst I've ever seen. He's pretty bad. So SMU's basketball coach got fired. We'll get to that later. There's more important stuff to talk about.
Calipari kept his job apparently.
Calipari kept his job until he won't leave for USC, but Musselman might. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because now, guess who we hired? We hired USC's basketball coach.
How you feeling about that?
It could be worse, but I'm not happy.
Yeah. It's a big season. It's a big season coming up for y'all.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because I'm like, oh yeah, he gets all these great players, and then he never does anything with them outside of losing in the first round and one COVID year Elite Eight run. But
Yeah.
whatever. Well, maybe that won't happen this time. Maybe he can actually win with great players.
Look, as an Aggie, I am in no position to downplay a COVID year run. Okay, 2020 was a magical year for us. All right.
Yeah. But as an Aggie and not an Aggie, I can do both.
Yes, that's right. You can tread that line.
I can do both.
Real quick, since we're on the topic, we're sticking on it. I mean, any thoughts towards Buzz? It didn't sound like you're the biggest Buzz Williams guy last time we talked about it. Any reaction to the way he ended the year? Strong again?
Oh, I was gonna make a huge point about that. Yes. So so it sucks that you lost, but like if in the end you do have to can Buzz in 2 years, this might be the best thing that ever happened, which is that you increase enthusiasm for the program without having to extend Buzz for the second time in 2 years.
That's fair. That's fair.
So
yeah. Okay. So I think I made a video about keeping Buzz around this week, and I think people took it as me saying extend Buzz. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you don't can Buzz. You keep Buzz around, and I used the pun unintentionally. It came to my lips. There's a Buzz in the building right now after this run late in the year. Maybe you get a couple more portal eyes this offseason. Maybe you get a little bit of steam there. You got guys coming back, capitalize on it. But maybe, you get some talent in the building thanks to it.
yeah. So I think the best thing you can hope for is either one or two things happens. Either Buzz, completely establishes himself, or two, now you can say Trev can still sit back because he's not put in a position where, God forbid, he does win that game, and then, it's kind of like what happened with SMU where Jankovic made the tournament in his first year, and then we just refused to fire him for like 2 more years way too late, even though he had been terrible after that one tournament run.
Maybe it'll happen again.
Yeah, and that, it happened with a certain football coach, recently in College Station. So, yeah. So, history might have repeated itself. So you might have saved yourself out of that one. But I think now you can sit back with a clear head instead of like, oh my God, we made the Sweet 16 for the first time in forever or however long.
Maybe.
This is amazing. And then all of a sudden you can't think with a clear head anymore because all you're thinking is Sweet 16, when in reality it's like, but all the same problems are still there. It's just now you made the Sweet 16 once.
Yeah, he's either taking baby steps or he's peaked. So I mean, it's a fair analysis.
So now you can sit back and think clearly. So
right.
we'll see.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I would not think, oh my God, everything's perfect now. But there's encouraging signs.
Right.
Speaking of, let's talk about some not so encouraging things. Can we talk about like the craziness that happened with Nebraska and Washington, their athletic director situation? So Nebraska picks off Washington, and then Washington picks off Washington State's athletic director after he had been negotiating on the side of Washington State to protect them from the other 10 schools that were leaving.
Wow.
Which I just think is cold. That is a cold-hearted move right there.
This whole AD shift, starting with Trev, has been pretty toxic, hasn't it? This has been quite the domino effect.
And what's even funnier is that the Nebraska AD had left Tulane for Washington like 6 months ago,
Right.
or even less. I think it was like 3 months ago. I can't remember how many months now, but
Yep.
not that long ago.
Right. Right. It's the big
So
shuffle.
it's just absurd. Like this is out of control, man.
I know.
And people are like, "Oh, the portal's out of control." Man, let's talk about athletic directors right now.
Right.
Out of control.
Right. I mean, and coaches at times too. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how it's like what is it? It's hypocritical, right? Just to criticize these players when the ADs do it, when coaches do it. It's happening all over the place.
Yeah. So I don't know, but whatever. Maybe we can get things in line where the players can leave without having like any sort of structure. But because currently they have no structure, we need to get that back. But
Right.
doesn't seem that that's happening anytime soon. Because guess what? The NCAA is in court again for
Right.
something else that we haven't talked about yet because it just got filed. So now there's two massive class action lawsuits with the combined damages sought being like $5.1 billion.
Go on.
So I don't know as much of the details about this one because it just got filed last week.
Oh my
So
God, they're getting sued left and right. This is crazy.
yeah, but let me just tell you, it's not good. It's not looking good right now.
Right. Right. Hey, we need to backtrack. Clemson suing the ACC. If you want to get into that.
Oh yeah, more court drama. It never ends.
Right.
So there's two things. First, Florida State's lawsuit. We got to talk about it. So there was a hearing last week. Next week, we'll know whether the lawsuit's going to go forward in North Carolina or whether Florida State can get it canceled, basically with a stay. And then obviously whatever ruling happens will be appealed. But
Right.
That's going to be some interesting drama. And then on Clemson's side, you have the whole. Oh, you see, the grant of rights only applies to us when we're in the conference, and otherwise it doesn't matter because we can make up the rules however we want in our favor, even though that makes no logical sense.
It doesn't make sense.
So yeah, Clemson, good luck with that.
I know. What was the point? I mean, it has no legs, right? I mean, what's the point of the lawsuit? Can you
Pressure because you'd have to, it's the whole point is to maybe the ACC will try to negotiate out. And my argument is why settle whenever you can just win and then find a negotiation with a higher price tag.
Right. Right.
Like, let's be real. The schools are not winning in court right now. They're not. The only way they could have won was if they went back and got the legislatures to give them sovereign immunity so that they can't be sued, because then they would have their home field advantage and the ACC couldn't countersue.
Right.
But they
Wow.
can't do that because they don't have those laws on their favor in their books. So
Yep. We just had, by the way, a Clemson. It looks like a Clemson fan jump into the call waiting room, so this might get interesting in a bit.
well, congratulations to you on making the tourney, but also thank you very much for giving us all your money.
Yeah.
I have one other thought, which is, I guess if it's allowed, I will give 60 seconds and no more because it's not an SMU basketball podcast.
Go for it.
We hired a coach who has no online presence since 2014. Most recent tweet, May 7th, 2014.
Wow.
Who was at a school in a massive metro area with a massive football fan base, but who has never followed for basketball. And what did he do? Did he engage the fans? You bet he did not. And what does SMU need the most? Someone who will engage their fans after dealing with a coach who completely shunned them.
Ooh.
And then left us. And well, after he got fired, he said that the reason he didn't want to engage with the community was because we weren't an academics first school. And I was like, I'm sorry, what universe are you stuck in? That hasn't been the case at 90% of schools since like the 70s.
Even if it was the case, what a weird justification. That's
Well, no, it was because he was like, it was toxic or whatever, because we were so demanding of him wanting him to win.
Yeah.
Basically, it was his argument. It was like,
wow. God forbid we demand you win games.
Yes, I know. So, and then instead we hire a guy whose whole shtick is, oh, we're gonna get Evan Mobley and Isaiah Mobley and Isaiah Collier, and then Evan Mobley, yeah, you went on an Elite Eight run with them with Bronny James and Isaiah Collier, and what did you do with your season? 14 and 18.
Wow.
Uh, we're paying him a lot of money, and
Yeah.
at least he has a real offensive scheme,
Yeah.
unlike our past coach. So maybe he can recruit players and make it survivable, but I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, this is just to relate it to A&M. Obviously, Jimbo never had a social media presence. Closed door facilities, tight-lipped locker room and coaching staff. And under Elko tweets about every commit he gets. He's tweeting about other Aggie sport victories and supporting other programs. He's engaging the fans. He's building hype on social media. Coach Schloss does the same thing. Buzz, not really directly addressing the fans on social media, but addressing his players publicly, hyping up his players publicly. It's been nice to have. It's really it kind of
It's
creates
crucial.
yeah, it's crucial. It really is.
You can't have a program without it unless your program is like Michigan or whatever, where it's like literally people will show up no matter what. Like even like obviously A&M fans will show up no matter what for football,
Yeah.
but like Michigan fans are weird. Where like they would I remember they were like so anti Howard this year, but like they would just say they would go to games and like say they hate Jawan Howard or whatever,
Right.
because they were like he's like 8-24. What's crazy is that other than last year, Howard was very good. And that's just kind of the leash you have. Where it's like you have one bad year, you're gone. Even if you go to the Sweet 16, Elite Eight.
Right.
And I'm like, I wish I could be on that level, or
Yeah.
we
Exactly.
could just discard all the success that it was for one bad year. But
You've gotten that weird altercation this year too. A little frustration brewing.
yeah. But ultimately, here's the one reason why I have hope. Well, that, and then I have a final ACC point. The one reason I have hope is that we know that our old coach would not engage the fans. So we're paying this guy way more money than that old guy, and we can put it in his contract that he has to do it.
Nice.
So
Always
anything's
helps.
possible.
Yeah.
That. And then second thing, ACC, 4 teams in the Sweet 16. One of them's already made the Elite Eight.
Yep.
Hey, Joe Lunardi, every single one of you know who you are, John Rothstein, Seth Davis. I could go naming names all day, but I won't do it. You look like clowns.
Get him, Max. Get him.
You look like clowns for daring to say the ACC is not a good basketball conference, that it's worse than the Big 12. Excuse me? I'm sorry. Texas Christian University is not worse than freaking North Carolina State. Give me a break. How dare you insult the soul of Jimmy V, man? Come on.
Dude.
Okay. And we need, honestly, I want the ACC to be as brazen as Greg Sankey is about football, because honestly, we have all the track record that deserve it. We're like the only conference that consistently achieves this many teams getting this late in March Madness almost every year or every other year. Like, we deserve this. We deserve respect and attention, and all we do is we get crapped on all year by the media, man. It is absurd. So Jim Phillips seems to be interested in going to war on that front, and with Brett Yormark and Greg Sankey, and I am inclined to participate. So we shall see, and we shall see whether Andy Enfield can give a good account of himself on that front, or whether he'll just be the laughingstock. We'll find out.
Well, I'm glad you could get that off your chest. And I'll say this about the ACC real quick. Obviously, I'm an SEC guy. I don't know the ins and outs of the conference like you do. What I would like to see for football is the ACC obviously survive and thrive, because I think a more diverse group of conferences I think is better for the sport. I don't want to see Big Two. I want y'all to get Notre Dame in football somehow. How do you get them off their asses? How do you do it?
We'd have to give them there'd have to be some reason why only conferences could only get in, so there's no independence.
Right.
That'd be the first one.
Right.
And then
Starve 'em out.
the second reason would be we would just give them more money
Yeah.
than the Big Ten, or equal money even to what the Big Ten would offer.
Yeah.
And then you could say, or close to equal, maybe it's slightly less.
Right.
And then you say, hey, sure, we're not paying you quite as much, but we're going to guarantee you a spot in this playoff because, once Florida State and Clemson leave, 8 out of 10 years, you're probably going to be the best team in our conference.
Yeah. Right.
So, well, for now.
Well, here's this. I mean, I don't know. You add Notre Dame, you keep Florida State, you keep Clemson. It just seems like a good conference to me.
It would be great, but it's Florida State and Clemson seem very inclined on not caring. So
that's crazy. It's
you can have a good conference all you want, and Florida State and Clemson can say, but those checks. And obviously, the real hammer we're all waiting on is North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I will say one thing though: any notion that an ACC team is leaving for the Big 12 is a joke. That's not happening.
Right. It doesn't seem like that'd be the case.
So have fun with that, Heartland Sports. Eat your heart out.
Hey, Max, I'm glad I could provide the platform for you to get that off your chest tonight. I feel like that's been brewing.
Yep, it has been.
Well, if that's it, man, you gonna call it a night?
Yeah, Colin and I have been watch the North Carolina game, and while they're still here, they better win.
Right. Do the conference well while they're still here. Well, all right, Max, I appreciate it as usual, man.
Yeah, have a great night, man.
You too. That was great stuff from Max once again. All right, guys, let's catch up with the chat, and then we're going to into Theo, and then Clemson to the SEC, who just changed their name to Clemson to the Elite Eight. I guess the game did indeed go final. Arch Manning sucks. Enough said. What do we expect from Texas? Oof. I think they're a 9 or 10 win team, guys. I think they retooled at receiver. As long as those pieces are good enough, I think Sark can make it happen with them. I think it's going to come down to Quinn Ewers in these big games, in these big moments. Is he good? Is he not? Can they reload on the D-line? I feel like they recruit well enough. I think they're in for a good year. I don't think they're going to win it all, but I think they have a playoff path. I think they have a playoff path for sure. Do you think they're going to beat Georgia at home? That's tough. I don't know. Aggie football, only you can make my dreams come true. Good to see you, Duke. Baron Morton sucks. Sorry, I'm late. I was watching the tournament. Oh, yeah. Clemson got it done. Buzz has to come back. I think he bought himself another year. Yeah, I think he bought himself through the end of his contract, which I think has 3 more years on it, unless it just falls off the rails. I don't foresee that. You have a lot of players coming back next year. I don't think it falls off the rails. I think there's room for improvement next year. I could see us predicting the team to make the tournament again next year and probably winning another round next year if you add the right players in the portal. It's a good freshman class coming in, but you got to get some shooters in the portal. They should have battled the Yell leaders outside of Kyle Field for 8th place in the SEC. You know what they should have done is sicked the Yell leaders on the Boomer Sooner wagon and just gone all-out war. They could pull or stick the core on them. Remember that video from like the 90s where the core member pulls out his sword and starts waving it at the opposing band or fans? Should have pulled that one on the Sooners. Drew, give me a food review after this caller. Ooh, man. I love Panda Express. I was so sad when the Las Palapas closed in College Station. It already closed? Okay, so that Las Palapas was a taco cabana. And I would go to that taco cabana, and it sucked, but I would go because it was cheap and it was protein. I went once to that taco cabana on, what is it, University? Yeah, on University, right, just above campus. I went there, got fajitas, went back to my house, opened the bag, got my drink. I spilt my drink. I spilt my Diet Dr. Pepper all over the floor, large, on the ground. Get my tortillas out, my guac, my salsa, my fajita fixings. The bag was empty. There was no meat. I think that story speaks for itself. All right. Theo, you're on with Drew. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Not too bad. I'm a little itchy. I think I got eaten up. I was moving some boxes at work, and I think a spider got on my arm or something. I have all these welts, and I don't know what to make of it. I hope it's not a brown recluse, but aside from that, I'm pretty good.
Any burning or sensation like that?
Extreme itching so far. No burning yet.
Okay. Yeah, brown recluse is, depending on how long it's been since you've had the bite, you would know by now.
It would probably be about 5 hours or so I'd probably know.
Oh, yeah. You'd probably be like at the hospital right now.
I know you don't know right away. I know it takes time, but I'm sure you figure it out by this time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, how did I do? How did I do with the scheme talk? I tried to downplay the scheme a little bit. That's where I went with it. I think it's more about building that winning attitude, that discipline. just rebuilding it with the fundamentals, starting from the ground up. And scheme's important, but with this team going forward, I think other things are more important right now.
Well, when talking about scheme, you go have to give a history lesson on football if you really want to break down the whole idea of scheme and what it means. Um, you probably have to start off with the introduction of the forward pass and how that changed everything from a run heavy scheme to opening up the pass schemes, which would then bring us into the West Coast timing based concepts of, Bill Walsh and guys like that. Um, and then marry that with how we ended up with the spread and the shotgun and all that stuff. Um, since we don't have a lot of time to really do all that, and I'm not really at a computer or something where I can, check all the facts in that aspect. What I will say is, in terms of offensive linemen, no matter what the scheme is run, you're still going to have the same 5 or 6 blocks. You're either going to have a down block, you're either going to have a base block, you're either going to have a reach block, you're going to have a pull block, or you're going to have a double team block. One of those 5 is what you're going to do on every single play. Oh, and then the 6th one would be a pass block. So based off of those is what you design your play to be.
And if people don't know, when you're running no huddle, every position group has a specific play caller. So for the offensive line's tunnel vision, they're looking at one guy and they're running one of like 10 different options. And that's pretty much the case across most offenses.
Correct. Now, the conversation about Jimbo scheme and Colin Klein scheme is that nowadays most offenses are built off the same thing. It's either built off of the inside zone, the outside zone, or a power run game. Those 3 things are basically what builds an offense in today's modern era. The difference is, the 4th one would be the air raid, which is basically strictly passing. Unless you're, crazy like Mike Leach and realize, oh wait, they're only going to give us run game, then we're just going to call runs like crazy at Mississippi State.
The strict air raid has kind of become less prevalent over the last couple of years.
But even then, the air raid has tied into now opening up the inside zone or the outside zone to play with it with the basis of the RPO. There's nothing really different in any of those concepts. They're all the same concept. It's just about how you marry them together inside your playbook that creates your quote unquote scheme.
Exactly.
In the modern easy terms. Now, if you really want to get all in the depth stuff, like I said, you would have to go back and basically look at the history of football and break it down from there. In Colin Klein's scheme, he does marry a gap run scheme, power scheme, with the inside zone and outside zone schemes, and a little bit of the spread option RPO schemes.
So just for people that don't know, real quick, for gap running schemes, you're typically punching open a specific hole in the defensive line to run through. Typically with a puller running into the hole, you're creating a single hole. With the zone running schemes, most offensive linemen are probably on a specific track that they're blocking, and it's up to the running back to flow with the blocking and select the hole. Is that more or less correct?
Yes, very much so.
Yep.
Basically, if you want to compare the difference, look at what Klein did at Kansas State, what Jimbo did with us at A&M, and even mix that in with Bobby Petrino, and then look at what Michigan did with their offensive line and defense line. If you want a better inside zone concept, look at what Washington did. Washington is a very inside zone, outside zone scheme with the mixture of power gap schemes. Michigan was basically nothing but power gap schemes with the timing-based passing game tied to it. So more of a pro offense, what they would call a pro offense. Whereas Jimbo tried to run more of at times he tried to run a spread pro offense because he loved running out of shotgun. I don't know what it was, but shotgun runs was crazy with him, or it was just a plain inside zone
What do you mean
run
shotgun
game.
runs was crazy?
He would like to run with A-Chain last year. He ran nothing but shotgun runs with him on inside zones for the most part. It took him until Florida, or not Florida, but LSU, did we really start getting behind in a 12 personnel and running with A-Chain behind the quarterback. Most of the time we would run out of the shotgun 11 personnel, 13 personnel.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. 12 is too tight, 13 is 3 tight, or a 3 in the backfield.
But like if you went back early in that season, like versus Mississippi State when A-Chain fumbled the ball, we were in a lot of shotgun, 11 personnel, inside zone handed off to him. Whereas with the LSU game at the end of the year, we went to more power duo. Let's double team guys and get up to the second level growing.
Yep.
With Klein's scheme, I think you're going to see a lot more of what Michigan and Washington did versus what Jimbo did, where it was inside zone all the time. Klein likes to get to the outside, so he's going to run outside zone. He's going to run RPOs based off that. The difference is Klein likes to mix up his formations and routes, and his offense isn't based off of timing in terms of what is. From what I have gathered and heard about his offense, it's a very open, flowing offense where there is structure to the play, but it's more of a 1-2-3 run. 1-2-3 run. It's not a sit back there, go through your reads 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, come back 1, 2, 3, 4. Go back 4, 5, 3. It's not like Jimbo where he wanted them to sit in the pocket more and read the defenses and then come back and read the defenses multiple times.
Right.
Whereas with Klein, it's okay, I want you to read these 2 reads or these 3 reads. I want you to read the front side 1, 2, and then come back to the back side. If you see the third receiver open, throw it. And then if he's not open, go ahead and run. Take off with it. And then he also builds in a lot of quarterback runs, designs, which is what Bill Snyder did with him when he was a quarterback. Part of the reason why he was in the Heisman race. He was one of those few quarterbacks that had over 2,000 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing. I believe. He was right there with Johnny in those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he's comfortable with, and that's what he's going to build his offensive identity as. When people talk about scheme, they confuse scheme sometimes with tendencies of a play call. Some guys tend to call outside zone. Well, that's their scheme to them. Sometimes it's different. Sometimes it's just based off of what the offensive coordinator deems as their key plays.
Right.
And what I mean by key plays is every offense that I've ever been a part of or known or read about, there's a set of 10 to 20 plays that offenses master. Like they absolutely could do in their sleep
Right.
type of thing. And then off of those 10 to 20 plays, they build segments off of it and variations off of it. So therefore, they're still doing the exact same play, but it just looks different because it's coming from a different variation. Maybe the wide receiver is in motion this time. Maybe the wide receiver is lined up in the slot instead of, um, or lined up as a wing instead of in the slot. Those type of things. It's still the same play. It's just a different variation of the play in how they want to run it.
Right. Well,
So that's scheme, I guess. I mean, I don't know how else to really go in deeper
yeah, no, that was
and
great, man.
simpler.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. We needed that. I'm not going to be able to articulate that the way that you did, so I appreciate you doing that, man. And yeah, I mean, of course we're going to overblow the one quote about it. It's fine. It is what it is. But yeah, I think you and I together have summed it up well tonight. Nothing to worry about, guys. But what else is on your mind,
From
Theo?
I mean, from Zune's standpoint, he's correct. He's
He's
going to
absolutely
do the
correct.
same six blocks that he would do in either offense. The difference is how often he's going to do it.
Yep.
Um, so and that's the thing that I'm looking forward to seeing Klein do and develop, and how does he adapt it to the SEC? Because the Big 12 is different than SEC. We've seen similar schemes like this run in the SEC with Florida, when they had Tim Tebow and stuff under Urban Meyer. We've seen it run under Lane Kiffin. It's similar to Lane Kiffin's offense, both at Bama and at Ole Miss. So, kind of really interested to see how it's going to come together
Yeah,
and
man.
how he designs it.
Yeah, man.
Um, Talking about Buzz real quick, and I'll get off after this one.
Okay, let's hear about Buzz.
Um, I wish basketball fans had the same passion, or let me rephrase this. I wish Texas A&M fans had the same passion for football as they did basketball, so we could have the same level of expectations. Yes, we pay Buzz as a top 12 coach. He is 12th in the salary in the nation. You're absolutely right about that. We should expect more from a coach that's paid that much. But the problem is we don't give him the resources of a top 12 team or even a top 25 team.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it before. Reed Arena is over 25 years old. They don't have a basketball only break room like football does.
Right.
They don't have a basketball only practice facility
And I've
like
said I'd be
football does.
okay, and I have sentimental feelings towards Reed. Walk the stage and Reed. I would be thrilled if they tore it down and built a smaller, more intimate and modern arena for basketball, and a place where, like you said, they have their own locker room, their own rooms. They build their own practice. They don't have their own practice court, do they?
No, they don't.
Right. So
They have to use Reed Arena as their practice court. And could you imagine having to do that while volleyball is trying to do the things during fall camp?
and it's not built to be a practice court. Practice courts have weight rooms attached to them typically and workout rooms attached and have different equipment on hand. It's a arena. It's not a practice court.
Right. And then um and then on top of that, we talk about the recruiting in this area and recruiting of what Buzz does. But the cold hard fact is before Buzz got here, not very many Texas kids wanted to stay at Texas A&M.
Right.
And then since Texas A&M was pushed out of the Texas recruiting area, Texas Tech came in, Baylor came in, Houston came in, and even Texas is still pretty huge in the recruiting footprint. So now you're fighting 5 to 6 top schools in basketball that all fund their programs like a top 25 program. And meanwhile, you're only funding this program as like a top 75, top 60 program. just good enough to make the tournament, but not good enough to go past, week 1, week 2.
Yep.
And that's how we've always ran the basketball program.
Yep.
So what Buzz is facing to hold him to such high expectations is something where we need to hold ourselves to those expectations and dip more into the NIL, dip more into help fundraising for a new arena and new facilities. And then we can possibly say, okay, Buzz, we've given you all these resources, do this. Now about his recruiting. The thing I hate about this recruiting is this current class back in November when they committed to A&M was a quote unquote top 5 class. Now, because we only have 3 slots open for a recruiting class and we only took 2 guys out of the high school, they're now down all the way to 64th.
Right.
And then now we're still looking for 1 guy out of the portal unless we lose someone else off the team.
Right.
So it's going to be hard to basically do the revamp that everyone wants in terms of trying to find shooters for this team because we need multiple in the portal because you don't have the room for them. Now, my thing is I think the kids that are coming in from high school are pretty good shooters in their own right in high school. They're around that 40% range. They're somewhere between 36 and 42 from the last time I looked at their stats. So I'm not too worried about
You talking about 3-point shooting
the
percentage?
shoot. Yes.
Okay.
I'm not too worried about their 3-point shooting percentage. What I am worried about is needing to get someone else on the team already that has it. And then getting a true big that can help defend the rim with Solo.
Yep.
Because Solo is truly our only big, quote unquote, big next year. Sure, we have Henry Coleman coming back, but as we saw this year, he's not the big that we need in that type of defensive scheme.
Right. Yeah, he's kind of a
And
hybrid.
then hopefully this summer Jace can get his shot back. If Jace can get his shot back like he was before he transferred down here, then the whole entire offense looks a whole different.
Jace was pretty good in that last game. What's his last name again? Carter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was. I thought he looked pretty good. I mean, yeah, I think you're pretty spot on. We've done this before, and I obviously I agree with your analysis towards the program, the expectations, and the investment. I think Reed needs to be either totally revamped or torn down. I didn't realize we only have room for 1 more portal guy, though.
Yes. We only lose 3 players. We lose Lavelkins, Boots, and 1 more. I can't remember the third one.
I struggle. I struggle with Levesque's name, but I've never called him Lavelkins.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Sorry.
That was great.
But yeah, we lose those 3.
No,
we
you're
lose
right.
those 3 guys.
You're right. It's only 3 out. So what can you get back unless you lose more guys in the portal? I mean, I think there's a good chance you have some momentum right now and you can get a pretty high-profile last guy, but who is it and is it enough? So, yeah.
And then everyone was complaining about the 5-game losing streak. But here's the thing. What caused us to flip offensively is we actually went to a 4-guard lineup.
Right.
With Solo being the anchor at the 5.
Levesque only plays like 6 minutes a game, so yeah.
Right. And then we had 4 guards on the lineup at all times.
Yeah.
So
I
now
worry
you can
though because
call
Boots was like the guy you go to when nothing was working. Like he just goes and gets it, and that's pretty valuable. That's pretty valuable. I mean, you could say the same about Obaseki. He does the same thing, but Boots was like that grizzled dude that when nothing's going in, he just attacks and he gets to the line. I mean, that's pretty valuable.
We're going to miss that a lot.
So I think obviously Obaski's trending up right now. It's been a long time coming, but he's finally trending up. I mean, obviously he's kind of arrived now, so you're going to lean on him way more heavily. But it was huge to have 3 guys who could handle and create, and now you're down to 2. So Yeah, you need a replacement there. You know, I think Hefner can be that guy. I'm kidding. No, I don't. But, you know, he's pretty good.
No. You're right. You're right.
No, he's
We're
not.
using
He gave okay. He
we're using Hefner. We're using Hefner wrong. Go back and watch Hefner's AAU tapes, bro.
I mean, maybe he did give
He-
us valuable minutes in the
Hefner
tournament.
Hefner in the high school in the AAU ranks was a slasher.
Was he really?
He got to Yes, he got to the rim. He was a dunker too. He had the same makeup as Manny
Yeah. Did you hear
in
them say he's from
AAU
the
in high school.
Netherlands? And the commentators were like, "Yeah, this guy's from the Netherlands. He's from Nederland, Texas." And they were like, "Yeah,
Right?
out of the Netherlands."
It's hilarious.
I think people are
But
more
then
down on
we-
him than he deserves. I didn't realize he was a slasher by nature before, though. That's crazy.
Yes, and then we're forcing him to try to be the spot up shooter in the corner.
Right.
And that's why he's struggling, because that's not what his game was before he came to college.
And now that you say it, I tweeted it out, and some people were like, no. But he did give us like a valuable 4-minute stretch in the game versus Houston right before halftime, I think. And his biggest moment, I think, was a drive and pass and then a driving layup. So, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, maybe he takes that step forward. You need it from somewhere. You need someone to take some of that boots weight off the team's shoulders. I know Abaski's going to take a step forward. I hope Wade Taylor's back. I'm sure he is. But, yeah, man, maybe it's from him.
The thing that I want to see is I want to see Wade become consistent.
Right, that's the thing. You're right, but he also, I mean, he takes too many heat checks, right? He takes too many crazy shots to see if he's on, and sometimes he doesn't play within himself.
Not just that, but he also tends to, how do I say this? He
Forces the
tends to
issue.
get himself. He tends to get himself to be trapped.
Right.
He likes to slide the right off of the pick and roll too much. He if you watch enough tape on him, he's easier to see and guard than you think he should be, because he's been this 4-year starter, all SEC guy.
Right.
And yes, he's good, but he takes, like, earlier in the Houston game, he knew he didn't have that shot. So why take 26 of them?
Yeah, right. He had
Why
one of the
not
best
get the
defensive
ball?
point guards in the country on him, too.
I understand that. So then use that to your advantage.
Exactly.
Okay, so you have the best defensive point guard on your things. Okay, run him through a bunch of screens, and then once he catches up to you, you get rid of the ball to someone else so that someone else can run him through a bunch of screens.
Yeah, he was forcing the issue.
You
And
know what I
one
mean?
thing about Buzz teams, was it just this game or is it recency bias? I feel like they don't utilize a lot of off-ball screens. I don't see it that often. And maybe it's just recency from this latest game and I'm frustrated about it. It's just something I don't see. I don't see a lot of off-ball motion. I need to go
I saw
back,
more of
but-
it last year than I did.
Right,
I saw more of it last year than I did this year.
right.
And part of that could be the fact that you had Marble, who is a pretty good post passer.
Yeah.
A Marble and
Coleman or Solo?
Coleman, Marble and Coleman played off of each other greatly
Yeah.
in that mid post game.
That was a dynamic
They would
we all
run
totally
screens.
expected to have this year, and we really didn't have it at all.
They ran that like crazy with each other, and then what they would do off that is they would let Coleman drive off of a screen from Marble, and then Coleman would kick it out.
Yeah.
For a shot.
Exactly.
And then when he kicked it out, he would kick out the boost, and then
Yeah, we missed that, man. I don't know. Is there any chance Marble comes out back, or is that ship sailed? I don't know what happened.
I'll let you go, my friend.
Do
Have a
what?
good night.
Oh, okay. I guess you're breaking up with me. All right, later, Theo. I think Theo was breaking up, and I don't think he heard what I was saying. But anywho, that was a great call. Sometimes you just gotta let Theo cook, because that Theo has something to say, and we appreciate it, and that was awesome. I love the rant on scheme. And yeah, basketball's still fresh, so we got to cover that stuff. Aggies win 9-7. I had to stop watching. We were up 6-3. Brandon updated us when it was 6-6. Got scared based on Brandon's update, and now I'm glad to see that we won. 1-0 against Auburn, guys, to start it off. All right. Theo was in his bag. Yes, Theo was absolutely in his bag there. I love hearing from Theo. I hope he doesn't think I ghosted him at the end of that call because we definitely broke up there at the end. But anywho, last caller of the night, Clemson to the Elite Eight. We have a Clemson fan here. Clemson to the Elite Eight and the SEC. So Clemson's going to the SEC. Are you confirming this with us live on YouTube?
Yes, this is correct.
Wow.
I have sources. I can't disclose them at the time, but that's true.
Most can't disclose their sources, and that's how you know they're extremely legitimate and real. So I believe you. What's on your mind tonight? How you feeling? You feeling pretty good?
Drew, listen, I got a lot of respect for your channel. You know this, right?
I'd like to believe this. I think I know who this
We've
is.
talked before.
Yes.
But you need to change the name of your video tonight. This is not about Texas A&M. This is about the Clemson Tigers.
Okay.
And what they have going on.
I see you're hyped off of your Sweet 16 victory. I'm going to let you cook. Go for it, sir.
Right now, do you know what I'm doing?
I don't know if I want to know, but I hear some juiciness back. What's going on?
I am watching North Carolina against Alabama.
Okay.
That is who we play next. One of those teams. I am watching North Carolina, a team in our current conference, playing a team that's going to be in our next conference. You understand?
Yeah, I get it. Yes. Facts.
And I think you need to take note because not only has Clemson terrorized Texas A&M in football, this machine is going to be playing you in basketball too.
Oh, God. So you're going to have to lean on some bullshit referee call to win the game. I got you. If that happens, you're going to win. But A&M won the game in 2018. That ball did not go out the end zone, man. That ball was out the sideline, sir.
Drew, I don't think you understand what's coming your way.
Oh, my God. I think I know what's coming.
I don't think you do, sir. I really don't.
Bring it on. You're not even going to get out of your Grana riots. You're not getting out of the ACC. You're on an island there, sir.
We just beat fucking Arizona. We can do what we want.
Okay. Well, that's not getting you out of the ACC, buddy. You're locked in for 10 more years, sir. You're not getting out of the Grana riots.
Listen, I don't give a fuck about the ACC, okay?
Okay. This man is
on
it.
All I care about are these Clemson Tigers.
That's right. You know what? I'm going to let you have this. I'm going to let you cook tonight because you got to the Elite Eight. And that's not something that we can say. We did get screwed by the refs again, though. Refs are helping Clemson out. I wanted to play Clemson in this postseason. I wanted to stick it to them after getting that bullshit win in 2018. But the refs screwed us. The refs saved you once again. Jace Carter, he didn't step out of bounds on that 4-point swing. A&M should be playing Clemson right now. But, of course, we're not going to play for a long, long time, buddy, because you're stuck in the ACC. You're stuck in the nether.
Because you're about to get relegated back to the Big 12. Is that why?
You're stuck in the nether. No, we're going to the Big Ten. We're going to the Big Ten.
We're going to the Big Ten? Okay.
We're going to the Big Ten.
Now, don't you think we would be better than South Carolina?
No.
A trash can school with garbage sports. You know, with a school in which people walk around with cocks.
Do you even know what the transfer portal is?
Yes, I know what the transfer portal is.
I don't think you do.
Why do you say that?
Because Dabo Swinney does not believe in the transfer portal. You're not getting anywhere with that old school mindset, sir. You're not getting anywhere. You're not winning. You're winning 8 games if you're lucky this year.
I thought we were talking about basketball.
Do you believe in NIL? I believe in God's name, image, and likeness. Dude, pay your players, sir. Pay your players.
We do pay our players.
Get a transfer. Get an adult in there. Get an adult in the room.
And I'm sorry, how many national championships has Texas A&M won with all their transfers?
Now you're going to lean on history. Now you're going to lean on history. All I can say is Dabo Swinney is washed, my friend, and he has no idea what the hell he's doing anymore. He's wandered around that ACC aimlessly. He's stuck there. He's on Shutter Island. He's having flashbacks. He's having like these delusions and visions of a time that once was. And Dabo Swinney doesn't have it anymore. Dabo's lost. Dabo's washed, man. You're going to lean on Cade Klubnik this year? Cade? Oh, my gosh. He's like the 6th best player in that recruiting class now. 6th, maybe 7th. God. I'm so sorry. Enjoy basketball, though. I'm happy for Clemson to make it to the Elite Eight. But the rest
I was watching Texas A&M. You know, they became all the way back and then choked it away in the overtime.
I don't think we choked it away. I think we couldn't hit free throws.
So, in other words, you choked it away.
The refs.
Oh, everything's the refs, huh?
A lot of things are the refs. Ask the Aggies.
Maybe you just have a giant victim complex.
You're stuck in the ACC. You're stuck. You're not getting out of it. Florida State's going to leave. Florida State's going to leave you behind. So is North Carolina. Dabo, I believe in the ACC. I believe in not realigning my conference. No transfer portal. God's name, image, and likeness.
True. We're going to be tormenting Texas A&M in the SEC within 2 years.
Within 2 years, buddy. Okay, you must be on Shutter Island, too, having these visions. You're in a dream right now. You're going to wake up tomorrow and realize you're stuck on the island. Tyler, don't tell him, Tyler. Come on now. Tyler, blame the refs. Do what any dignified Aggie would do. Blame the refs. Come on now. You've done this before, Tyler. Let's go. Get with the program, Tyler. We blame the refs here. No, yeah. We did
why do you surround yourself
missing free throws is absolutely choking it away. But I wasn't going to acknowledge that until Tyler did. So thanks, Tyler.
Why do you surround yourself with these cultists in your comment section that just agree with everything you say?
I love the cult. I love my cultists, man. What are you talking about?
Well, that is Texas A&M, right?
It is absolutely Texas A&M. Hey, I got to ask you something. Did you see the Boomer Sooner wagon try to infiltrate our facilities last week?
No. What happened here?
The Boomer Sooner wagon was randomly at Kyle Field this week, like on Tuesday, doing a photo op in front of our stadium. They got some issues, man.
Was this sanctioned by Brent Venables?
I think it was. I think Brent was in the costume, actually. I think Brent was on site.
Did Dabo call the hit in?
It was definitely
his secret agent.
Dabo doesn't believe in transfer portal, but he's calling hits out of Norman. That's absolutely true. God, Dabo, man. What's going on? How do you feel about Dabo? I got to hear it from a Clemson fan. How do you feel at football? Let's shift it from football. Let's shift it to football. Are you okay with not using the portal?
I would like us to use it. I'm disappointed we're not. But we have right now, I think for 225, I think the number 2 ranked class right now. Now that could change. But I think that
I got to say, I think Dabo and Jimbo are 2 peas in a pod, man. I think they're 2 coaches that succeeded in the old world of college football, but they're not going to do a damn thing going forward. Even when Jimbo's at West Virginia, wherever he's going next, or Vanderbilt.
Listen here. Swinney, none of Dabo Swinney's players have ever, or rather,
I know where you're going with this. I don't take ownership of this. Go ahead.
You want me to go there, huh?
Oh, I like to go easy on Jimbo. I actually like Jimbo. If you want to go there, I wash my hands of this. I can't control the dollars.
Dabo Swinney's wife has never cheated on him with a player from another school.
We're good. We're going to leave Jimbo alone here now and just divert this back to Dabo.
Oh, so shit on my guy, but not yours.
Well, I'm not getting personal with the guy.
Listen,
I think Dabo's beautiful. I like Dabo as a person. He's just a little, maybe a little washed. It's okay.
We'll see.
It's okay. We'll see. All right. Well, if that's it, you can go back to your ACC island now. Enjoy the Elite Eight. Though. Enjoy the Elite Eight. You made it there and we didn't.
Okay.
Okay.
You're gonna shut me down like that?
Do you have more? Do you have more you'd like to say before we get off?
Listen.
I'm listening.
I have respect for Texas A&M as an institution.
Okay.
I just need you to understand that Clemson is coming to the SEC and going to dominate, humiliate
in 2036
in every single sport.
In
Thank
2036.
you very much, and you have a great night.
In 2036. Well, that was interesting, guys. That was very interesting. He went back to his ACC island where he'll be stuck for the next 11, 12 years, and we won't see Clemson for a while, even though I would like to play Clemson again because we won that 2018 game. Guys, it was a great show tonight. I appreciate you guys for being here. We had a lot of fun talking about the scheme. Just a Clemson guy out of left field coming out of the island, out of the woodworks. Crazy. I guess they do have internet in jail. Guys, y'all have a great night. Like and subscribe. I will see you with another video on Monday. Live show again next Thursday, 8 p.m. We beat the hell out of Auburn. We got to do it 2 more times.